Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivashari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samabhata Bhaktivinoda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Shri Nath Ji Ki Shri Gaur Nitai Ki. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. Glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's a pleasure to be here today and address so many of you, seeing so many devotees so enthusiastic and desirous of serving Krishna. No. Of course, statistics say that there's 9 million devotees, more or less, in ISKCON. But according to world population, that's only 0.03%. No. So we have a long way to go. Srila Prabhupada said, if 10% of the people in the world become Krishna conscious, then the whole world will be Krishna conscious. So we have about 280 times more to go. So each one of you can try to make 280 devotees, and then we'll do that all over the world, and we can achieve that desire. This is Srila Prabhupada's desire. That Srila Prabhupada said, my biggest problem is that I can't think small. So we should also, if we're followers of Srila Prabhupada, we cannot think small. We have to think that we cannot be satisfied until the whole world is Krishna conscious. One time a devotee told Srila Prabhupada that, Srila Prabhupada, we're distributing so many books. What will happen when everyone has a book? And Prabhupada said, there will be more people born. Every day there's more people born. Yes, but Prabhupada, if we have books in everyone's home, then even when they're born, they will see books when they grow up. And Prabhupada said, then we can go to another planet. So, this is Srila Prabhupada's determination. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 7th chapter, we'll read a few verses. The first purport's not very, it's more informative than enlightening. And starting with verse 33, I'm sorry. Prithvi Vayurakasham Apognis Chandrama Ravi Kapoto Jagara Sindhu Patango Madhukrit Gaja Prithvi Vayurakasham Apognis Chandrama Ravi Kapoto Jagara Sindhu Patango Madhukrit Gaja Prithvi Vayurakasham Apognis Chandrama Ravi Kapoto Jagarha Sindhu Patango Madhukrit Gaja Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramaravi Kapoto Chakara Sindhu Tango Madhukitana Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramaravi Odi Jagara Sindhu Tango Madhukitya Jagaja Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramam Ravi Kapoto Jagara Sindhu Patango Madhukitya Vaishnavis Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramavati Kapoto Jagara Sindhu Dango Madhukitya Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramaravi Goda Jagara Sindhu Patango Madhukit Goja Divayurakasham Apogni Chandramaravi Kapoto Jagara Sindhu Patango Madhukit Gaja. So now we'll read the next two verses, which are all together here. Those who have electronic apparatuses, books, or whatever means of, can read along with me. Madhuha harino mina pingalam gururo baka kumari sharakrit sharpa unanabi supashakrit ete me guravo rajan chaturvimshatirashita shiksha vittibir etesham anavishkam ihatmana. So we'll say the word for word. These are all interesting words. Prithvi, the earth. Vayu, the air. Akasham, the sky. Apa, the water. Agni, the fire. Chandrama, the moon. Ravi, the sun. Kapota, the pigeon. Ajagara, the python. Sindhu, the sea. Patanga, the moth. Madhukit, the honeybee. Gaja, the elephant. Madhuha, the honey thief. Harina, the deer. Meena, the fish. Pingala, the prostitute named Pingala. Kurara, the kurara bird. Harbaka, the child. Kumari, the young girl. Sharakrit, the arrow maker. Sarpa, the serpent. Urnanabi, the spider. Supeshakrit, the wasp. Ete, these. Me, me. Gurava, spiritual masters. Rajan, O king. Chatur Vimshati, 24. Ashvita, taken shelter of. Shiksha, instruction. Brittibi, from the activities. Itisham, of them. Anvashiksham, I have properly learned. Iha, in this life. Atmana, about the self. Translation and purport by the servants of Srila Prabhupada. O King, I have taken shelter of the 24 Gurus, who are the following: the earth, air, sky, water, fire, moon, sun, pigeon and python, the sea, moth, honeybee, elephant and the honey thief, the deer, the fish, the prostitute Pingala, the Kurara bird, and the child, and the young girl, the arrow maker, serpent, spider, and wasp. My dear King, by studying their activities, I have learned the science of the self. Purport. The wasp is known as Supeshakrit because it carries the insect that it kills. It causes the insect that it kills to take a beautiful form in the next life. So if you want to be beautiful, you can be killed by a wasp. No. So we'll read the next text. Yato ya nanu shikshami yatava nanu shatmaja tatata purusha vyagra nibodha katayamite. Translation. Please listen, O son of Maharaj Yayati, O tiger among men, as I explain to you what I have learned from each of these gurus. So this is the text we'll mainly be speaking about. Bhutair akramyamanopi dhirodhaiva vashanugai tadbidhanna chalen margad anvashiktam shitir bhatam. Translation and purport. A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of God, and thus he should never be distracted from progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth. So we can repeat this. A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of God. And thus he should never be distracted from progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth. I think in the newer version, it says acting helplessly under the control of material nature. No. Purport. The earth is the symbol of tolerance. By deep oil drilling, atomic explosions, pollution, and so on, the earth is constantly harassed by demoniac living entities. Sometimes lush forests are cut down by greedy men with commercial interests, and thus a wasteland is created. Sometimes the earth's surface is soaked by the blood of soldiers fighting in savage warfare. Yet despite all these disturbances, the earth continues to provide all the necessities of the living beings. In this way, one may learn the art of tolerance by studying the earth. Om Jnana Tivanandasya Vinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Idam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Tam Sajivam Detam Savaduta Parijitam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Cha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine. So going back to the first verses that we read, these are the first, in the previous verse, he says, learning from the 24 elements. So in different ways, of course, the first ones are part of the 24 elements. That each one of these gurus represents one of the 24 elements. Now that analysis is we won't go into that here, no. But the point is that if we worship the 24 elements, the way we worship the 24 elements is by worshiping Krishna. Because everything is included in Krishna. No. So we don't have to worship, just like Krishna says that there's no need to worship the demigods because whatever they can do, that is included within me. I'm giving them the ability. Jasyante jagya bhavita. That they're dasya. They're servants. Otherwise, when they give you something, they are forced to be servants, but they're actually my servants, and I'm giving it to you. That I am the supplier of everything. So, actually, everything is included in worshiping Krishna. But we have to use our intelligence to see Krishna everywhere. By seeing how Krishna is manifest. Krishna is the strength of the strong, the intelligence of the intelligent, the ability in man. So when we see someone who is very accomplished, we see here is Krishna's potency. That's why in the 7th chapter and later in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes the time to explain his Vibhuti incarnation. He incarnates in each one of us in different ways, giving us intelligence, giving us abilities, giving us strength. So we should never think that these things are mine. First of all, of course, someone can lift weights to become strong or do exercise. I see the devotees out here in the evening doing their yoga. But that's for health. But we can do all kinds of things to become strong. But the ability, the possibility to become strong, having a body that can become stronger, that depends on Krishna. And the exercise, the intelligence to have to do the exercise to become stronger also comes from Krishna. So there's nothing ultimately that's not coming from Krishna. So this is the essence. Of course, now we'll go into a deep analysis throughout this chapter and the next chapter, so that one can understand how one can see anything you see. You you can relate it to Krishna. Just like there's one story, a devotee, this is a true story, although it's pretty amazing. This one young devotee, he joined the temple, he was 16 years old in San Diego, California. And he became very enthusiastic, so much so he didn't want to study, he just wanted to read Prabhupada's books. So his parents were a little concerned. They expressed their concern, the temple devotee said, Prabhu, you have to do your study. He couldn't do it. He was so engrossed in Srila Prabhupada's books. I had a couple cases like that, and I told the parents, just, let him get over his initial enthusiasm. Unfortunately, it never happened. And so then they became angry, but at least it pacified them for some time. But in many cases, we do see that someone has some initial enthusiasm, and I tell the parents or concerned parties, just let them feel the feeling so wonderful, they're discovering something. And then later they can take up their studies. It'll be easier to convince them later on. So this boy, nobody could convince him. So his father became very disturbed. And his father became inimical to the devotees. And then, so finally, he was so disturbed that he took his son to an insane asylum, and committed him. He said, the doctor, he's become brainwashed. He's lost his intelligence. He's overwhelmed by this fanaticism. And he's gone crazy. Doctor said, okay. So he took him in. So he said, the boy, so later on we'll have our interview. Okay, so he came in for the interview. The doctor has his his pad, his clipboard. So, do you ever hear things, hear voices? Oh yes. I hear things. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And do you see things? Do you see anything? Yeah, I see things differently. Oh, okay, you see things different. And how do you see things differently? And what do you hear? He said, just like this flower. There was a flower on the table. This flower. Most people would think it's pretty and it smells nice, but I don't see it that way. Yeah, we got a real good case here. He said, actually, when I look at the flower, I think that this beauty and this artistic creation must have an origin. And therefore, when I see this beauty and this construction, my attention goes to who has created this. Just like if we see a work of art, we think about the artist. So when I see this flower, I don't see a flower. I see the Supreme Person who has created this flower. Doctor, where did you hear this? This is interesting. And what do you hear? Well, when I hear something, I hear the sound vibration that comes from the Supreme being echoed through all living beings. Doctor, where do you get this knowledge? I said, well, my Bhagavad Gita, I have it right here. So he pulled out his Bhagavad Gita. He started reading. And they sat there for 2 hours. And the doctor was amazed. And finally the nurse came and said, there's more patients waiting. Oh, okay, well, we have to stop. And he said, so, actually, I think I'm going to call your father. You can go home. So he called the father. The father came and he said, well, you're an amazing doctor. You cured him so quickly. And he said, this boy is the most intelligent person I've ever met. He's the sanest person I've ever heard of. There's nothing wrong with him. And the father said, what? He started hyperventilating, and he started screaming. And so they committed the father. And the boy went home. So this is seeing, we see things, Krishna consciously. Then everything becomes very wonderful. So this is the first verse. Then we read this verse, that the Avadhuta Brahman now begins to explain. And the first guru is the earth. Now the earth is very tolerant, so tolerant that the earth herself says, there's only one thing I cannot tolerate. Who knows from the congregation, not the devotee, what is that one thing that the earth cannot tolerate? Someone who does not tell the truth. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said, well, the Bhagavatam says, that it's explaining about, that Kali is beating the cow and the bull and has destroyed 3 legs. And the only leg that's partially still there is truth. So, and Srila Prabhupada explains that when truth is not there, then society becomes totally animalistic. Because there's still some degree of truth. People have some, of course that's going away quickly. So much lying, so much cheating. But when there's some degree of truth, then there's some hope that people can understand. Later on in Kali Yuga, there'll be no truth. And therefore, there'll be no ability to understand anything. So, the earth is very tolerant. We see here some examples. Oil drilling. Srila Prabhupada, of course, says in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam that Hiranyaksha was the first one to start the big gold rush. There have been many gold rushes around the world. Here in India was the first one. Ravana. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that he came to Brazil. There was a lot of gold in Brazil. So when he ran out of gold in Lanka, India, then he drilled a tunnel to Brazil, and he came and got gold. Actually, there's a mountain in Rio de Janeiro, and it has 2 big holes. They look like 2 eyes. Looks like a demon, actually. But they've gone into that. They've never found the bottom. People have gone down, and they never come up. So people stopped going down because they didn't come up. But they've never found. They put ropes, cables, rocks. They can't hear anything. They lights. They can't see the bottom. So the devotees think this must be Ravana's, cave where he came out. Looks like Ravana. So it's only one head. But so the first gold rush. But the first one, even before that, was universal, Hiranyaksha. So Srila Prabhupada says that this drilling for oil is going to create such a disturbance. Actually, in the U.S., the first state where they discovered a lot of oil is Oklahoma. And they have, when you go to Oklahoma, if you go, then there's oil well everywhere. They never see, there's no end. Anywhere you go, you see oil. Even in the city, you go to the airport, there's oil. But actually, just in the last 20 years, they've had, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they had 350 earth tremors, and the ground falling in. So you can see, keep taking the oil out, and the oil, there'll be great problems. And Prabhupada said that the earth can go out of its orbit again, and who knows if it's just from so many sinful activities, maybe Varahadev won't come to the rescue. We'll just be flying off into space. Hopefully, we'll all be back home, back to Godhead when that happens. Because it won't be very comfortable. So, pollution. Nowadays, if you want pure water, you have to buy it in a bottle, and even then, it's not pure because the plastic contaminates it. So there's no pure water. There's no pure air, especially in Mumbai, or Delhi, or New York, Sometimes you can go in the countryside. But even nowadays they have big clouds, especially over India and China. These big brown clouds that cover sometimes the whole country. And pollution, everything's polluted. And the worst pollution is the pollution of the brain, brain pollution. People are polluted by so many sinful, materialistic ideas. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, 1975, there was a big court case in New York City, the Supreme Court, because we were being accused of brainwashing. So everyone, the leaders wrote to Prabhupada, what do we do? But Prabhupada said, we will discuss in Mayapur. So then everybody came, all the leaders, and Prabhupada said, so now call all the leaders, we will discuss. Oh, everybody came, all the leaders. Of course, Prabhupada's room in Mayapur was very small. So as many leaders, GBCs, they were inside, few temple presidents hanging in through the windows, And then Prabhupada, very peacefully, he picked up a pencil and he looked at it like this. Everybody's waiting for the revelation. And Prabhupada says, so? They say we are washing the brain? Yes, Prabhupada. What is the problem? If the brain is dirty, it must be washed. And then Prabhupada looked at his pencil, a little bit more pen. It was a pen. And he said, but in any case, there is no problem. Because they have no brain. So, no problem. And then Prabhupada said, Hare Krishna. That was the solution. And devotees went away enthusiastic and they won the case. Actually, it was interesting because for the case, the judge said, do you have any evidence? And so devotees said yes, and they brought a whole set of Bhagavatam. And the judge said, we will take up this case again in 1 month. I have to read the evidence. So he read the whole Bhagavatam. And then he came back, and he's just very quickly, he said, case dismissed. He said, this is fully bona fide authorized religion. Finished by the mercy of the Bhagavatam. So, pollution, demoniac living entities. We are being led by demoniac. Manda sumanda matayo. Manda, people are materially lazy, and manda mateo means that those who lead them are even more materialistic. So, forests are cut down by for commercial interests. Srila Prabhupada says in the, well, actually it's not Prabhupada's purports, but one purport that, well, actually Prabhupada did say in one purport that they're cutting down so many trees, for useless things, useless paper mills, and creating so much rubbish literature. And so this is, I've seen this actually in Latin America, where I spend most of my time. They cut down huge forests for what? For grazing cattle. And what do they do with the cattle? We don't want to mention. Just cutting down all these trees. First sinful activity, cut down the trees. Then they put the cattle. And of course, many of these breeds of cattle, you can't even call them cows. They don't look like cows. They have little small eyes, like they're combined with buffalo and other animals. So they don't look like cows with big eyes, they're little small eyes. But still, so merciless, killing so many animals. One sin after another sin. And wasteland. I saw this in Panama. Panama is like probably one of the most tropical countries in the world. It has the thickest jungle in the world. So there was one part that was covered with trees when I first went there. And then they cut down the trees for the cattle and turned into a desert. So they're foolish, so foolish. Also Spain. Spain, 500-600 years ago, used to be covered by forest. But then they cut down all the trees, and now it's very dry. Used to be very rainy, lush forest. So the earth's surface is soaked with the blood of soldiers. So, of course, in Kurukshetra, that became very auspicious because Krishna was there. So the blood formed a lake, and that lake became a very auspicious place. So this is, but the earth tolerates all of this. So tolerance. The earth bears everyone's putting their feet on the earth. This is not very auspicious. Therefore, a devotee, when they get up, they first should pray to the earth, please excuse me for putting my feet on you, but I will do it in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, please tolerate. We have to have this respect. The earth is one of our mothers. No, we don't trample our mother. No one goes up to their mother and jumps on top of her. No, so we have to be very respectful. So this is tolerance. This is the lesson. So tolerance is a very, very important quality. Actually, because without tolerance, there cannot be Krishna consciousness. No. Without tolerance, there's so many verses in the Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita. First of all, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shikshastikam, which is said to be the garland. No, Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Tororiva Sishnuna Manina Manidina Kirtaniya Sada Hari. This verse is the garland that everyone should wear constantly. So tolerance, Krishna says two things, humility and tolerance. Because by humility and tolerance, we can have respect and be free from the desire for self-aggrandizement. So these two things are also the first two things that Krishna teaches Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. No? That the first thing he teaches is humility. No? That, what is that verse? I can't think of it right now. Anyway, yeah. So he says, Nanushachanti Pandita, that a wise person, Ashocha Anvashochastvam, Pragavedam Chabashase, Gatasum Agatasumcha, Anushachanti Pandita. A wise person doesn't lament. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, indirectly and almost directly, he's calling Arjuna a fool. So Srila Prabhupada said that before the spiritual master, one should consider oneself a fool. No. When Prabhupada gave sannyas to Hridayananda Maharaj and Satsarup Maharaj in 1972, he said, now everyone will call you Maharaj, but you must remember that I am the greatest fool. No. So this is the first lesson that Krishna gives Arjuna, first direct teaching. You're a fool. No. First thing you understand, this is humility. Understand, before the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like Sanatana Goswami, when he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for instruction, he said, everyone calls me intelligent. I know all these languages. I have so much knowledge. I've been engaged as the chief minister. No. But I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm suffering. No. I don't know the purpose of this life. So therefore I'm a fool. Until we ask these questions, until we have this mentality, no, not just superficially, but we have to have the mentality that I am a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, Krishnera Nityadas. And then we can progress. And then the next thing he says, Tam Titikshasva Bharata. No. You have to tolerate. Even just normal existence. No. Existence forces us to tolerate. No. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkataha. Heat, cold. No. Happiness, distress. No. All these things that we come in contact with. We're forced to tolerate. But being forced to tolerate, no, is not first class. We have to learn to voluntarily tolerate. So tolerance is so important that Kapila Dev says, Tatiksha va karunika, no, that Suridam sarva dehinam. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Suridam sarva bhutanam. But Kapila Dev says that Krishna says, I am the friend of all living entities. But Kapila Dev says, Surinam Sarvadehinam, that the devotee is the friend of all embodied beings. But why doesn't he say Sarva Bhutanam? Because it's more difficult to be tolerant of an embodied being. Because there's so many people, so many different habits. No, we all have different habits. In another verse, later on in the Bhagavatam, it says something similar, no? That titikshaya karunaya, that one must be tolerant and one must be merciful, no? Maitriya chakila jantushu. That these four things must be there. No, tolerance, compassion, friendship, and equality. These four things must be there. Otherwise, no. Samattvena chasarvatma Bhagavan saprasidati. This is the way we please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No. By these four things, if you demonstrate, if you exhibit to every living entity, you be tolerant. Because without being tolerant, you can't be compassionate. And without being compassionate, you can't be friendly. No. You can't be the friend of everyone unless you have real compassion. And you can't have compassion unless you're tolerant. No. Because it's very difficult. No. So many living entities are annoying. No. They're very annoying. No. And you have to tolerate that. And why do we tolerate it? Because they are parts and parcels of Krishna. No. So tolerance also comes from knowledge. No. We have to have real knowledge. Knowledge that everything is part and parcel of Krishna. No. And then, by these things, samatvena chasarvatma, the Paramatma within the heart will see our equanimity, how we see everyone equally. And then he will be pleased. Bhagavan samprasidati. He will be very pleased with all of us. So this quality of tolerance, it's always mentioned first. Very important quality. Such an important quality, because there are different types of tolerance, and I'm going to give some examples of different types of tolerance. First, there's, just like there are three types of miseries, adhyatmika, adhibhaudika, adhidhaivika. So, the first type of tolerance is adhyautika, that we tolerate things coming from our senses, our mind, our bodies. And Rupa Goswami has concentrated on this. If you just learn this type of tolerance, so he begins his Upadeshamrita, that Vachuvegam, Manasakroda Vegam. You have to learn to tolerate the desire to speak. People would like to talk all the time. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says, that everyone is talking, but they're not talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The birds are talking, the politicians are talking, everybody's talking. Just like I'm flying, and sometimes I see people, they talk from the beginning of the flight to the end. Even sometimes going from India to the US, which is 15 hours, I see people talk 15 hours. And what are they talking about? I don't know. I don't listen because it's not very interesting, but and very enthusiastic. I see people walking on the beach, talking, very enthusiastically trying to enjoy material life. So this is the first thing. We have to control the tongue. Only talking about Krishna. And manasa, then controlling the mind. It increasingly gets more difficult. First, controlling the speech, that's difficult. Because we all want to glorify ourselves and glorify someone who represents our desires. Some famous musician, some famous movie person. Because they please me. They please my senses. They satisfy my desires. Therefore, I glorify them. Everything based on me. Where a devotee glorifies Krishna and glorifies that person who glorifies Krishna. So manasa, a little more difficult. And krodha vegam, more difficult, controlling anger. Even Vishwamitra Muni could not control anger. Such a great sage. Durvasa Muni, he couldn't control his anger. He was why? And why is it so difficult? Why is tolerating anger so difficult? Because we're envious. Srila Prabhupada explained, externally speaking, Durvasa Muni was upset because Ambarish Maharaj had broken the fast before him. But Prabhupada said the real reason was that he saw, why are people glorifying this king, this ordinary king? I'm a great sage. Why are they not? They're glorifying him more than they're glorifying me. And therefore, I will insult him. And that was the real reason. Envy. So when there's envy, there's lack of tolerance. There's lack of good qualities. And everything goes down. Envy, Srila Prabhupada said, envy is what brings us into this material world. Envy is what keeps us in the material world. We're envious of Krishna, and then progressively we become envious of everyone. Once you're envious of Krishna, then you will be envious of everyone, because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. And to not be envious of Krishna, then we have to stop being envious of everyone. And we have to put it in reverse order. Now I have to stop being envious of other living beings. So, Krodha Begam, Jiva Begam, controlling the desire to eat, to please the tongue, satisfying the tongue. Sevanamukhi Jiva Do. The best way to do it is by glorifying Krishna. Udarapasta Begam, satisfying the stomach, satisfying the genitals. If we can do these things, it all has to do with that oneself, adhyatmika. But if you can do this, etan began, yo vishaheta dhira. If one can be very sober and tolerate these things, then sabam api mam pitivim sashishat. One can make disciples all over the world just by tolerating one's own self. What to speak of tolerating others? Of course, Rupa Goswami, this instruction actually comes from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was getting ready to leave this world, he called for Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. They came to Jagannath Puri. And so he spoke to Rupa Goswami. He said, I want to give you some instructions for all living beings. And he spoke the Upadeshamrita. And Rupa Goswami memorized it. He is Shrutidar. He didn't have to write it down like us. He memorized it. He didn't, of course, now we have the electronic memories. We can go to the internet and we can get information. But that's not realization. We can get so much information. Just like Srila Prabhupada said about the U.S. He said they are simply overeducated Shudras. They have a lot of information, but no realization. Shudra. And they're even more dangerous. More dangerous. The most dangerous thing is an active fool. A passive fool, he's ignorant, but he doesn't think he's so intelligent. A passive fool, he doesn't consider himself, but an active fool considers himself intelligent and then disturbs everyone. A passive fool just disturbs himself and a few others. So, these things, just by tolerating oneself. And this type of tolerance, this is one type of tolerance. We tolerate the urges of our senses. One of the greatest examples of this is Ranti Dev. Ranti Dev, he fasted for 48 days without water. Usually even devotees, like, they have to fast till midday. It's like a lot of anxiety, fasting to midday. What to speak, 48 days without water. One time, when I was a college student, I followed this one health guru named, what was his name? Arnold Ehret. So he had Arnold Ehret's mucusless diet. So he said we should come to the point where we only live on sunshine. That was his. So I tried to do that. I fasted for 32 days. Then I was practically I was already thin. You can imagine how thin I was after 32 days of fasting. Finally, I realized that I wasn't subsisting on sunshine. I was like practically dead, so I started eating again. But he fasting 48 days and no water. I was taking water, so no water. And then, just getting ready, there was, he was a king, so they brought him a nice feast. And so he was just getting ready, and this Brahmin came. He said, "My dear king, I haven't eaten for a long time. Can you spare me something?" Rantidev, of course, gave him one portion. Then there was late, and his family's waiting also to eat. Then he just gets ready again, and a Shudra comes. "My dear king, you are so merciful. You are merciful even to the Dina like myself. So please, can I have?" He gave him another portion. There was only a little bit left. And then one man came with dogs. To the dogs. "My dogs are hungry. Can you feed them?" Rantidev, "Yes, of course." He gave the rest. There was nothing left, just water. You can imagine how much anxiety his family members were in at that time. And he wasn't in anxiety at all. And then he was just getting ready to drink the water, and a Chandala came and said, "My dear king, I have thirst. And I know I'm very low born, but please, can you give me?" So Rantidev thought, "Now I will die, but I will happily give this water." And he gave the water. And then he said that actually I don't aspire for the 8 yogic perfections. I don't aspire for release from the cycle of birth and death. My only aspiration is that I can live among all these living entities. If I can live among them, and actually I can take away their distress. I want to suffer for them. I will take away their distress. This is my desire. And of course at that point Brahma, Indra, demigod said, "That was us. We were testing you, and you have passed the test." So he tolerated all these urges. You can imagine how many urges were coming after so many 48 days. We tolerate these things. And how do we tolerate it? Because Krishna. As Bhagavad Gita says, just like the ocean. The ocean, so many rivers are flowing into the ocean, but the ocean stays the same. And in that same way, so many desires may flow into the mind of a devotee. But if a devotee, his consciousness is expanded by being Krishna conscious, being conscious of everything by being Krishna conscious, then the desires don't disturb him. So this is tolerance. Now tolerating others. Tolerating others is more difficult. And just like Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, he was cursed by a Brahman's boy. He made a little mistake with Samikya Rishi, because he was hungry. And he put this snake garland around. He wasn't offered anything to eat, anything to drink. And Samikya Rishi, he didn't even think about it. He was meditating. And then Parikshit Maharaj thought, why did I do this? This must be the Supreme Lord. Otherwise I would have never done that. I would have never treated a king like this. There must be some purpose. And then he was cursed. He was cursed by Shringi. And then Samikya Rishi came out of his trance, and he was thinking, oh no, my son, my foolish son, has cursed the pure devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was such a pure devotee that just before he was born, everyone was concerned. He was the last hope of the Yadu dynasty, the last hope. And so they asked the astrologers, is he a great personality? He is not a Mahabhagavat. He's not. No, he is Maha-Bhagavat Mahan. He is a Maha-Bhagavat. No worries. So he was such a great... So Samika Rishi was thinking, I hope that... I'm praying that Parikshit Maharaj will curse my son. Why was he saying that? You would think, why would he want to curse my son? No. Because he's thinking, if he doesn't curse my son, then the Lord, when someone curses his devotee, there will be no mercy for him. No. So therefore, the best thing he can get cursed. But, no. Then he said a very beautiful verse. No. Tiraskritya vipralabdha. That, unfortunately for me and for my son especially, no, that devotees are tirakshita, even if they're defamed or blasphemed, no, vipralabdha, even if they're cheated, no, shapta, kshipta, hata api, or if they are neglected, or if they are cursed, or even if they're killed, no, nasya tat patikurvanti, they never counteract it. No, they never. They're so tolerant. No, that tad bhakta prabhavopihi. Oh, my Lord, your devotees are so tolerant. The power of their tolerance is inconceivable. So he was thinking. But in any case, because this was the Lord's plan, Shringi was not really punished in one sense, but he became, his curse was actually arranged by the Lord to become the downfall of the Brahminical society in Kali Yuga. From Shringi, it went downhill. And now we have Brahma Bandhus at best. Best. I mean, from descendants, not from devotees. They're reviving Brahminical culture. So this was tolerating others. Ambarish Maharaj tolerated Durvasa Muni. Haridas Thakur tolerated the Muslim king. And the Nawab and the Qazi. Actually, the Nawab was a little sympathetic. He said, this Qazi, he's very fanatical. Fanatical Muslim. So you better accept my proposition. He said, no. And the king put him in jail, and he preached everyone, made everyone a devotee. Then the Qazi was even more disturbed, said, bring him here. And he said, you tell him, he didn't even want to speak to it. He said to the Nawab, you tell him that if he doesn't take up his religion, he will be persecuted to death. And then now, of course, Haridas heard that. And he said, my dear king, you can cut my body to pieces, but I will never stop chanting the holy name. And the Nawab was very worried. But the Qazi said, then, if he has no fear of death, whip him in 22 marketplaces. And so he was whipped and whipped and whipped until the 22nd marketplace. Then the men who were whipping him, they said, please, Haridas, we can see that you are the greatest person, that you are a great soul, but could you please die? No. Because if you don't die, we will be killed. And Haridas smiled. They were amazed, he's smiling. And he said, oh, I don't want to disturb you in any way. And he went into samadhi and stopped breathing. And so then the Qazi said, then the Nawab said, now you can bury him. No, the Qazi, don't bury him. He doesn't deserve it. Only pious people were buried. These Hindus, throw him in his so-called holy river. They couldn't pick him up. The executors tried to pick him up. The 10 men tried to pick him up. They couldn't move him. And then, when they all let go, by his own will, he just rolled into the Ganga. He floated downstream, he got out. And the Brahmins, they saw him, they had heard what happened. They said, Haridas, you're alive. You're well. But these people, they should be condemned. How could they do this to you? He said, no. No, I am the one that is condemned. I was hearing blasphemy against the Supreme Lord, and I didn't die immediately. I should have died immediately. So actually what I got was very little punishment. It should have been so much greater. But then Haridas said, they don't let them go. But of course Krishna didn't think that way. The Nawab, his whole family became sick. The Qazi died, and his family members all died. Because they tortured Haridas Thakur. But Haridas was tolerant. He didn't want them to suffer. This is the devotee's tolerance. And one of the most tolerant persons, he's right here in this room. Anyone know who he is? Well, there's Prabhupada. I'll speak about Prabhupada. There's even a more tolerant person right here in this room. Who is that? Krishna, in the form of Paramatma. How much does Paramatma tolerate? He's in everyone's body. How much are we abusing these bodies? And he tolerates unlimitedly. Paramatma. Krishna tolerates the insults of the atheists. They're insulting him all the time. The atheists, the Mayavadis. And Krishna tolerates it. The devotee cannot tolerate it, but Krishna tolerates it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so tolerant. Ramachandra Puri was insulting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so austere. His austerities were breaking the hearts of his devotees. When Ramachandra Puri cursed him or insulted him, saying that he was a Vishai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I will only eat one small bowl of rice every day. The devotees could not tolerate this austerity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they would make him a nice bed and he would take it away. He wouldn't even use a pillow, he would just use his hand. They would make him a nice bed of straw, he would push it away. Devotees were, he was doing all this just to show us that a devotee is dedicated to devotional service, so much so that he doesn't care for his own personal comfort. Of course, as long as we're conditioned, then we can accept some degree of comfort. Because we're conditioned. So because we're conditioned, we need some facility to perform our service. And even if you're a pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, he had to have quiet when he was translating. One devotee friend of mine, when Prabhupada was in London, he came from the US, and so he thought one day, we went by Prabhupada's window. He said, he was thinking, I'm going to chant my round, then Prabhupada will see how nicely I'm chanting my rounds. So he was chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada opened the window. He was waiting. He said, there is so much place to chant. Why don't you walk over there? You can chant. I'm disturbing Prabhupada. So Prabhupada needed his quiet. Also, Prabhupada, one of the things he could not tolerate was a door slamming. Whenever a door would slam, Prabhupada would say, who has left that door? Unfastened. So Prabhupada also didn't like so much dogs barking. So even a pure devotee. So we can have as much comfort as we need to increase our devotional service. But too much comfort will decrease our, then we have to understand this is sense gratification. But enough comfort so that I can do more service, comfort for the mind, comfort for the body, and I can do more service, then that is all right. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he brought some architects, when he was building the temple from England. And then the devotees came in, Prabhupada, they said, they want to eat meat. Everybody said, then give them meat. They're doing service. Otherwise, if you don't give them meat, they'll go away. They're meat eaters. So give them, because this will make them do service. Of course, we don't recommend that. But so this is tolerance. So we can tolerate others, and to tolerate the onslaught of material nature. Markandeya Rishi, he wanted to know how is the Lord's Maya. So because he was cursed when he was a young boy that he would only live for 10 years, no, his father was very concerned. And he took him to Lord Brahma. And he said, my son will only live for 10 years. And Brahma said, no, he will live for 7 days, but 7 of my days. No. He will have a long life. No. And Markandeya Rishi, so, because he had requested, I want to understand the Lord's Maya. So he had 7 days of Brahma. And on the first time, he was swept up by the waves of devastation. He was suffering like anything. He was in the ocean, and alligators were biting him, and sharks were biting him, but he wouldn't die. No. And he was being thrown, tossed by the waves, and then finally, he saw Krishna floating on a leaf. He went inside of Krishna's body, in his nostril, and he saw all beauty and all creation. Then he went out, and he was in the devastation again. No. And then, again, for the devastation so long, 1,000 years. And then all of a sudden, he was in his cottage, chanting mantras. And so he understood this is the illusion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the greatest, most difficult thing to tolerate, sometimes for one who is not, when we're not thinking clearly, when Maya is touching us, is to tolerate the tests, the trials that Krishna gives us. No. This was shown by Sri Narad Muni. Narada Muni one time, he was with the Lord, and he said, my dear Lord, your Maya is so incredible. I'm seeing how the living entities are so bewildered. Please, my Lord, I want to experience your Maya. And Krishna said, no, you don't want to experience it. You're preaching to the living entities. No, you're glorifying me with so many. You don't want to. Yes, my Lord, I want to understand your Maya better. I've never felt Maya. I don't know what it's like. And Krishna said, okay. No. So he turned, all of a sudden, Narada Muni, he turned into a Brahmin. He took a Brahmin's body. Krishna took a Brahmin's body. They began to tour throughout the universe. And they came upon one Vaishya. And this Vaishya was very pious. He would use his money for serving the Lord. So Krishna, in the form of a Brahma, of course, he didn't understand it was Krishna. He said, so I bless you, you will have so much wealth. Thank you. Now I can use it in the service of the Lord. Then they came to a Brahmin. And Krishna, in the form of a Brahmin, he said, I curse you that you will lose all your wealth. Narada Muni was bewildered. No. He said, my Lord, why did you do that? No. He could understand that he was Krishna. No. Because he said, first you blessed one man with wealth, and then you're telling another man to take away his wealth. This is not fair. And he said, no. The first one, he's a Vaishya. He should have wealth, and he's using it properly. The second man, he's a Brahmin. He should be chanting mantras, but he's farming, and he's making money. So therefore, for his own benefit, I took away his wealth. No. Narada Muni's understanding. And he said, my dear Lord, I see how you're so wonderful, how your mercy is equally distributed to everyone. So Krishna's thinking, he's not understanding my Maya. He's not understanding Maya. No. So he said, now he took Narada Muni to a lake, a beautiful lake. And he said, so here we will rest. First you go in the lake, and I will follow. So Narada Muni went into the lake to do his ablutions. And when he came out, there was no lake. He was in the ocean. And he looked at himself. And he was no longer Narada Muni, he was a woman. No? And of course he didn't know how to swim as a woman. So he was, and then he caught onto a piece of wood. She caught onto a piece of wood. And screaming, help me, help me, help me. And this king, he was on the shore. They said, who is that? A woman in distress. He sent his boat and rescued her. He said, "Oh, my beautiful lady, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. No? Who is your family? Where have you come from?" She thought, "I don't know. Oh, he must have shipwrecked. She must have lost her memory. She doesn't remember her family. Let me take you home and feed you." He took her. "Do you remember it?" "No, I don't remember anything." No. "But you are so beautiful." And he proposed to her. So they got married. No. And after getting married, they lived very happily, beautiful palace. She was so happy. Oh, so many wonderful facilities. And then, after so many years, she had 50 children. No. And she was so attached to her children. So she said to the father, "Give them wealth." "No, no, no. I will give them all my kingdom. I will divide it up." So he divided up the kingdom between the 50 children and got them all married. But, he didn't divide it equally. He divided it as best he could. So then the wives of the children started saying, "Look, your brother has more property than you." She said, "No, no." But after a while, all the wives were saying like this, "He has more than you. He has more wealth than you." No. And all the brothers started becoming envious of one another. And they had a great war, and they all died. No. And she was so, Naradi was so distressed. No, how could this happen? No. And even in the kingdom, there were many temples of Krishna, but she never went to the temple. She was so busy with her children, her palace. No. She said, "This Krishna is so cruel. Look what he did. We are old. Why didn't he take us? But he took my children. He has no mercy. No, how can he be so foolish to do this? I cannot worship this Krishna." So Krishna came in the form of a Brahmin. And of course, she didn't realize who he was. And he started preaching to her that everyone has their own destiny. No? And everyone must suffer or enjoy according to their destiny. No? So she said, she became pacified. She said, "Then just tell Krishna to take my life. I cannot bear this suffering." And the Brahmin said, "Just go do your ablutions and I will teach you how to worship Krishna. Go into that lake." So she went into the lake, and when she came out of the lake, she saw Krishna standing on the bank and said, "Krishna, what are you doing here?" And he looked at himself. He was Narada Muni. He said, "Oh, did you have some bad dream? Did you have some bad experience?" And he came and he grabbed Krishna's feet. "Oh, my Lord, now I understand." He said, "Do you want to see more of my Maya?" No. I understand. No. So even sometimes when I spoke a little bit the other day about Prahlad Maharaj and the Python sadhu. So when he asked that Python sadhu, he said, how do you tolerate all these things? And he said that because it's not my business to glorify anyone or to criticize anyone. No, I do not blaspheme anyone. I don't criticize anyone because there are so many different varieties of living entities. No, but they are all under the control, just like this verse says. They are all under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even aggressors, Arjuna, that ayatayina, there were so many aggressors. Prabhupada says there are 6 types of aggressors. And Arjuna had all 6 of them. No? They tried to poison them. They tried to burn their house, and they tried to burn them. No? They attacked them with weapons. No? In the battlefield, when Arjuna was thinking like this, they were with weapons ready to attack. No? They plundered his property. They took away his riches. And they kidnapped his wife. All 6 types of aggressors in one. And still Arjuna was so, as a Vaishnava, he was tolerant. Of course, Krishna didn't want him to be tolerant, so he took it. No. But actually, this was the Vaishnava. All 6 types of aggressors, and Arjuna was tolerant. No. So these are examples. There's so many examples of, in Bhagavatam, so many examples of tolerance, teaching us this most important virtuous quality that will allow us to see that everything is the mercy of Krishna. Because why do we tolerate? Because a devotee understands that I have created my destiny. This is the source of this knowledge. This very basic point is you just have to always remember, nothing is happening to me without being caused by me. As Srila Prabhupada said to one devotee, he was very agitated. Prabhupada said, don't become disturbed by the instrument of your karma. So we should not be disturbed by there's so many instruments. Some people are expert at helping us develop tolerance and humility. They're actually Mahabhagavats in the teaching of tolerance. Some people are empowered by Krishna. But we must accept their mercy. Of course, we don't tolerate someone interfering with our service. And we don't tolerate someone blaspheming Krishna. And we don't tolerate people blaspheming the devotees. But if someone does something against us, of course, if they attack our body, we should defend the body. But only if we understand that this body is Krishna's property. Then I'm doing it for Krishna. If I'm protecting it because I don't want to suffer, then again, that's lack of tolerance. But if I protect it because this is Krishna's property, I have to protect it, then it's very justified. So tolerance is a very, very subtle, this art of tolerance is a very subtle science. And we have to be so Krishna conscious to be able to do it. And to be Krishna conscious, we have to learn the science of tolerance. So anyway, I was going to say something about this prayer, but I've run out of time. So can I say this? Just one thing about this Sachi Sutastakam. Hari Bhakti Param Hari Namadaram. No, I'm sorry. Satatam Janatha Bhavatapa Haram Paramartha Parayana Lokadgatim. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has accepted the burden of teaching everyone and tappa harim, taking away their suffering and giving them the greatest benefit and the greatest goal of life. So this is the tolerance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking the burden of taking away our suffering. Ranti Dev, Vasudev Datta, he was willing to suffer. You can just imagine, what would it be like to take on the suffering of every living entity in the universe? That I will take as many births to suffer all the reactions of all the living entities in the universe. How many? You can't even count. You could extend that number around the earth unlimited times, and you wouldn't come to an end. How many births he would? And he was willing to do it. And Srila Prabhupada said he wasn't just saying it. No, we might say something. Oh, I am your servant. You are so wonderful. We may say that, but we may not mean it. Oh, Prabhu, but he may not be Prabhu. Bring me this. No. One time Prabhupada wrote a letter. He said, we call everyone Prabhu. No. That means we're servant, not that we tell Prabhu what to do. No. So this is a very, very great gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This verse of the Shikshastikam, that we should be tolerant, humble, respectful, and not desire anything for my personal gain or well-being. Then we can practice Krishna consciousness properly. So I'll stop here. Any question? Any comment?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna. In the field of nuclear science or quantum physics, the mind is almost all the time focused on the nuclei of the atom just to stay on top of that field. As a successful businessman, the mind is always focused on tapping the potential resources to multiply the wealth. And as a student of consciousness or spiritual practitioners, our mind, words and actions are always focused on improving the consciousness. So which one of the three is the most difficult and why?
Yes, well, I studied nuclear science, so that's what I studied, nuclear physics. So just like we would go to the reactor, see all these little particles, no. And actually, now they think they found a particle called the God particle. Now, about 2 years ago, they were doing an experiment, no, and they were going to accelerate the God particle and see it. But then what did they say? It escaped. This was in Switzerland. It escaped and went all through Europe and up through England, and we lost it. No, didn't have a visa, but no, it escaped. No. So the point is that if a scientist would read the Bhagavatam or read the Vedas, then they would say Anoraniyam Mahato Mahata. No, that they want to discover the smallest, but the smallest is Krishna. No, and he's the biggest. So they're trying to understand the absolute truth through science, experiment, but Srila Prabhupada said it cannot be experimented. So whatever if one gains wealth for Krishna, if one studies science and takes as Prabhupada said, see what these scientists are doing and do the same. Show that how it leads to Krishna. That was the purpose of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. So whether it be science or business or anything, our duty is to teach people how to do that for Krishna. No. That's our challenge. No. So now we have I understand we have some awards to be given. So we'll stop here and give the awards. No. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.